Deus Ex is a universe full of immense innovations in technology with a specific focus on human augmentation technology. In a near future world set in 2027, only 5 years away, humans can augment almost every aspect of their physiology. But this has created a divide in humanity between the augmented and unaugmented populaces. Augmented people are generally more wealthy and capable of physical feats and strategic edges that unaugmented people simply aren't capable of. However, it also comes at a cost. Augmented people generally have to take an extremely prohibitively expensive drug called neuropozyne to prevent their bodies from rejecting their augments, and this has unfortunately been known to be the fall of many augmented people in the Deus Ex universe. There is some science in the real world which both agree with this idea of augmentation and implant rejection, but also a great deal of science that disagrees with it. But we're not here today to discuss that. We'll cover that in a future episode. So today, we're looking at one of the most augmented people in the Deus Ex universe and the sheer number of augments that went into making them who they've become. Let's explore. Adam Jensen is a mechanically augmented person within the Deus Ex universe, and to a significant degree as well. Owing to being part of a medical experiment candidate as a youth, Jensen possesses a genetic condition whereby his body would not reject P.E.P.S electrodes with glial tissue buildup. If anything, the bond between tissue and electrode would strengthen with time, possibly without limit. This meant that if he were ever to be augmented, he would not require neuropozyne. Following an attack at his workplace as an adult, David Sarif, his boss, took advantage of his genetic condition and a clause in his contract to augment Jensen to an extent which would not have been possible for any other individual. Jensen ultimately received the most advanced augmentations that Sarif Industries could produce. The result was, at the time, probably the single most extensive cybernetic modification that had ever been performed. So, let's take a closer look at these augments. The Computer-Assisted Social Intelligence Enhancer, or CASI implant, analyzes the behavioral patterns of conversation subjects and provides psychological data to other social assistance orgs. In cooperation with the Retinal Prosthesis, the CASI implant's optical psychophysiological response analyzer, aka optical polygraph, assembles a rudimentary physiological profile based on facial expression, body language, and environmental cues, providing the user with various tools and strategies to help manipulate and persuade subjects during social interactions. The Dialectric Enhancer passes the information gathered via the CASI's optical polygraph and provides recommendations to the user regarding ongoing social interactions. The user may then release a cocktail of pheromones into the air around the subject. These pheromones are artificially produced from 3 classes of putative human pheromones: auxiliary steroids, vaginal aliphatic acids, and stimulators of the vomeronasal organ. When combined with proper manipulation techniques and assuming the user has constructed a nominally favourable social situation, these chemicals will help the user sway a conversation towards a desired goal. The enhancer also proposes rhetorical interjections and prompts the user to insert them into the flow of conversation during strategically valuable intervals. Over-frequent application of the pheromones on a single subject may cause permanent physiological problems. The MHD995 hacking device is a 9 GHz processor with software and hardware custom designed for intrusion of computer networks. It is installed as a modular attachment to the typical neural weave, such as Sarif's Weave 7, allowing the user complete control over hacking operations without the need for any tactile device or virtual interface. The most elementary function of the device is to commandeer network hubs and use them to launch further attacks on the system. Without further improvements to the informational warfare obfuscation system or the Costican neural optics node fortifier, the user is at risk of discovery by network safeguards, though operational success can still be achieved with quick thinking and a strong knowledge of in-system workarounds. At advanced levels of operation, the Augment can directly access and control a variety of electronic devices. Numerous internal software upgrades come pre-installed with the MHD995, but are deactivated by default. When the user's neural weave grows accustomed to the rapid processing and dismantling of Level 1 security systems, the MHD995 can increase its clock speed by tapping into the unused computational power of the interparietal sulcus, a portion of the brain responsible for numerical processing. Monitored and facilitated by the neural weave, the MHD995 can achieve a clock speed of 9.8 GHz, allowing it to dismantle Level 2 security systems. Further exploitation of the intraparietal sulcus and increased energy usage allow the MHD995's processor to execute computations at speeds reaching 10.6 GHz, equaling the processing power of the most effective non-organic industrial computers available. This also enables powerful anti-access control systems, rendering Level 3 security defenses helpless against the user's intrusion. Network security systems of Level 4 and above typically use powerful access control matrices that severely limit the movement of even authenticated users. The MHD995 is capable of rapid authentication fabrication, granting total systems mobility to the user, except where multi-factor physical authentication is required. Digital forgery of this magnitude requires more processing power than is safely available in the intraparietal sulcus. So the MHD995 instructs the neural weave to tap additional computational power from the medulla oblongata, the section of the brain that deals with automatic functions of breathing, heart rate and blood pressure. On users who lack a cybernetic heart, this process could be dangerous. However, installation of the Sarif RX Health Rebuilder and Cardioverter defibrillator may ensure that the heart is not negatively affected. Processing power can then reach speeds of 11.2 GHz, sufficient to evade Level 4 security systems. The most effective anti-intrusion security systems require physical authentication from the subject in the form of retinal scans, DNA tests, occipital alpha wave recordings, or other material forms of current identity proof. Defeating these systems would be virtually impossible without all operational software of the MHD995's hacking system installed, allowing access to the maximum processor speed of 12 GHz. Such impressive clock rates are only achievable through complete annexation of the medulla oblongata. In this situation, all of its biological functions must be turned over to additional augmentations such as the RX Health Rebuilder. It is not advisable to overclock the MHD995 past the 12 GHz maximum, or sudden cardiac arrest may occur. If all of the above conditions are met, the MHD995 can rapidly fabricate and mirror the correct authentication data and provide it to the unwitting security system. Users will have little difficulty defeating Level 5 defenses. The MHD995 hacking device has a powerful suite of enhanced functionalities that, in addition to the penetration of firewalls for clandestine data retrieval, can also enable experienced hackers to co-opt and take control of deeper subsystems. The camera domination package contains specialized code that controls and inhibits IntelliCam devices. The turret domination package contains specialized code that controls and inhibits a variety of anti-personnel, fixed-base, multi-sensory turret stations. It also contains signal cracking and reauthoring software to confuse target recognition programs, motivating the devices to fire upon its friends. The MHD995 hacking augmentation can be further enhanced to penetrate mobile, high-functioning, limited AI robotic defenses and disable them. It also contains reauthoring code similar to the turret domination module, which can be used to realign the robot's loyalties. The Costigan Neural Optics Node Fortify version 1.1 decreases the likelihood of intrusion detection through the use of effective signature-based access denial. This system compares all network traffic against a library of known diagnostic subroutine vectors and instantly delays any subroutine packet that resembles a known signature. This provides adequate defense against a broad majority of commercially available diagnostic. The Costigan Neural Optics Node Fortify version 1.2 improves its intrusion detection system through the application of statistical anomaly-based intrusion detection systems. This subsystem gathers intelligence on resources required for normal operation, of the system and uses it to identify areas of increased network activity. This can help the MHD 995 to identify the activation of a diagnostic subroutine prior to a system-wide alert, allowing the hacker additional time to initiate the version 1.1 subsystem in preparation for defense. This further delays investigation by diagnostic subroutines and protects the hacker from most industrial-level intrusion detection systems. The Costican Neural Optics Node Fortify version 1.3 contains the most advanced form of anti-detection hacking software currently available. An intruder-mounted subroutine reviews all network activity gathered by the version 1.2 software and generates a benign state protocol resource DLL. The subroutine then monitors all network activity and approves or denies packet transmission based on comparisons to recorded activity in the DLL. If a deviation is detected, the version 1.1 is alerted and defense systems are erected. This provides the user with superior forewarning of intrusion detection and grants ample time to acquire the target data and exit the system without being detected. The informational warfare obfuscation augmentation blinds the security systems to the user's hack attempts by subverting local intrusion detection subroutines. It achieves this through an array of anti-detection rootkit processes, each unlocked after the MHD 995 hacking device has fully integrated the IWO into the neural weaves processing cycle. The basic operational mode of the IWO module involves the installation of a code-level rootkit. This rootkit immediately seeks out vulnerable security subroutines and blinds them to the user's hack attempt. Furthermore, it seeks the system's user registry and works to escalate the network privileges of the intruder until they reach administrator status. When the user's neural weave grows acclimatized to the processes required for the rootkit, the IWO can activate the supplementary regenerative mode. This system ensures that any detection of the user is instantly rendered useless by multiplying the intrusion signal by a factor of 1,000. Most systems identify this as a false alarm and self-delete the intrusion alert. Some systems are smart enough to identify this as the work of a rootkit and require further obfuscation in order to be deceived. If the rootkit fails to obscure an intrusion effort, the IWO has one last trick up its sleeve. Once the neural weave has integrated the regenerative mode into processing pathways, the rootkit can insert polymorphic code into the intruder's network signal. Polymorphic code causes the signal to continuously self-scramble, further reducing its in-system presence. Even with all these improvements, there is always the possibility to trigger a network security alert during node capture. The use of additional anti-detection and anti-apprehension software is highly recommended for elite-level hackers. The Infolink telecommunications package enables users to receive and transmit messages without the need of an additional physical device. This technology uses the natural conduction of teeth and bone to transmit sound to the inner ear. If an I-No retinal prosthesis is also implanted, visual signals accompanying incoming transmissions can be projected directly onto the user's retina. At its most basic level, the package uses tight-band microwave signals when sending and receiving. Various add-ons can enable the user to communicate silently or to interact with line-of-sight computer terminals and similar devices. The cochlear implant component of the Infolink telecommunications package sends incoming audio transmissions directly into the user's inner ear, eliminating the need for headphones or earpieces. A microphone placed on the vocal folds comes standard with the Infolink package, allowing users to send voice messages in frequencies beyond the normal range of human hearing. This augmentation upgrades the robotic arm assembly with precise motors and detailed deconstruction routines. This allows the user to break down and recycle many item types into weapon parts for future upgrades. The microassembler can break down weapons, ammo, and many other items with metal pieces, such as explosives, software, and junk items. The number of parts created are based on the physical size of the item used. Modifications to the microassembler routines allow it to evaluate part requirements on a per-item basis and suggest more efficient construction methods. The end result is that both crafting new items and upgrades to existing items require fewer weapon parts to perform. Further upgrades to the microassembler bypass safety and longevity concerns to once again streamline construction. This substantially reduces the cost of upgrades and crafting, even compared to the standard upgrade optimizer. The Retinal Prosthesis is the basic chassis for all optical augmentations and must be implanted in both eyes before further, more specialized devices can be purchased. The HUD projected by the prosthesis provides data on the user's medical condition, available equipment, wireless access to personal data storage, and direct audio and visual telecommunications. An optical membrane implant and data frame for vision augmentations, this device is a micro-thin base coating layered onto the inside of the human eye, with a synthetic neural tissue spike connected to the optic nerve. It is capable of projecting digital information directly on the retina. The Retinal Prosthesis comes with an optoelectronic retinal heads-up display that allows digital information to be directly displayed over the user's vision. Experienced users of the Prosthesis can take advantage of its inherent self-preservation capabilities, such as the flash suppressant, which prevents temporary and permanent blindness from all harsh light, including the visual interference of concussion grenades and mines. The Stealth Avatar upgrade activates upon detection by an attacker and monitors their behaviour and eye movements in order to determine whether or not they've lost sight of the user. Once evasion is confirmed, onboard software calculates the likely spot where enemy forces still believe the user to be hiding. This location is marked on the user's retinal HUD with a digital silhouette of the user, making a discreet escape or tactically advantageous position far more achievable. The LiDAR Mark Tracker provides visual tagging and tracking of targets via the Retinal Prosthesis. Advanced functionality is provided by an onboard LiDAR laser scanner and electromagnetic field interpreter. At its lowest level, the LiDAR Mark Tracker provides the ability to track up to 10 targets. The LiDAR antenna's signal gain can be upgraded if desired, increasing the amount of trackable targets. Upgrades to the active antenna on the LiDAR can increase the gain on the receiver, allowing the LiDAR to split its focus across multiple subjects. Further upgrades of the LiDAR active antenna allow for even greater gain, permitting scan tracking for further additional subjects. Smart Vision is an optical membrane implant that enables the users already equipped with Retinal Prosthesis to locate and reveal persons and robots beyond walls and obstacles. By emitting frequency-modulated carrier waves, the sensor detects body heat, heart rate, respiration, and electrical activity and then, through collaboration with the Wayfinder Radar, assembles a complete image of the person or device, producing the detectable effect. It sends a two-dimensional representation of the target silhouette to the retinal prosthesis, where it is projected as an overlay onto the user's field of view. The frequency-modulated transmitter installed in the Smart Vision's package provides limited range penetration of low-density objects and cover obstacles, immediately revealing persons and devices present. Due to the sensitivity to the ambient electromagnetic field produced by the user's other installed augmentations, the Smart Vision frequency transmitters require a dedicated power supply to counteract a negative signal-to-noise ratio. With fine-tuning, the frequency modulation can be set to cancel out the noise from the user's EM field, requiring less energy. Near-perfect tuning of the Smart Vision frequency modulator can significantly reduce the augmentation's power requirement. Programmed to recognize thousands of item shapes, global ISO IEC identification numbers, matrix codes, and manufacturer specifications, the Magpie upgrade to the Smart Vision's base system scans the visible area for useful items. The Wayfinder Radar system gives the user a limited range radar indicator, which is projected directly onto the Retinal Prosthesis optical user interface. This basic model reveals all human presence through a combination of visual, thermal, and motion detection systems, each updated once per millisecond. Additional features and upgrades can be enabled depending on the efficiency and plasticity of the user's visual cortex, where the augment is partially installed. The Prosthesis will learn to analyze patterns in movements and behaviors, allowing it to predict with startling accuracy the amount of time human targets will spend searching for intruders or investigating disturbances before giving up. A wideband frequency jammer augmentation, the chaff sends out scrambled radio frequencies that can confuse and delay explosives within a reasonable distance. The delay roughly doubles the amount of time before an explosive detonates, giving the user time to escape or disable them. Enhanced visual processing algorithms allow the Wayfinder unit to identify most forms of physical structures and accurately render them on radar. Some acclimatization to the increased processing requirements by the user's visual cortex is recommended before enabling this option. The Retinal Prosthesis relies in part on the processing capacity of the user's visual cortex. On installation, the Wayfinder system is limited to an extremely short range. Once the visual cortex becomes acclimatized to the increased neural activity, the gain on the radar can be increased. Through greater exploitation of the Wayfinder Radar system and more precise tuning of the thermal detection sensor, the vision feedback system can identify the direction and inclination of targets' heads, providing a near-perfect estimation of their field of view. The enhanced noise feedback functionality on the Wayfinder Radar system gives its user a real-time representation of their self-generated noise levels and their potential detection range. It achieves this through the installation of acoustic recorders, vibration detectors, and digital analyzers connected to the hearing centers of the brain. The Sentinel RX health system is a massive and elegant augmentation made up of numerous units distributed throughout the body. The primary components are a series of hair-fine sensor probes connected to all vital organs. They provide biomedical data to a center health monitor unit. This unit tracks the medical condition of the user and triggers secondary modules when it registers critical damage through internal or external trauma. These modules are implanted in heart tissue, the lymphatic system, and adrenal glands, and utilize microelectric charges and phase-released chemicals to stimulate the body's healing reaction. The Sentinel RX health system comes standard with an implanted cardioverter defibrillator capable of restarting a human heart. It is implanted directly into the sinoatrial node, or as an alternative to it if the heart is fully cybernetic, and is specially tuned not to interfere with the user's other electronic implants. The defibrillator system also performs double duty as a tissue stimulator. In the event of injury, the defibrillator can emit 50 mV doses of bioelectricity to stimulate the production of neutrophils and macrophages, encouraging and speeding the body's natural healing process. The cardioverter defibrillator can speed healing processes significantly once the user's tissues grow accustomed to the electrical stimulation. A steady flow of 65 mV stimulation not only encourages the rapid production of new cells, but also stimulates those cells to produce additional healing materials such as collagen, actin, and cortisol. With the user's basic tissues now fully accustomed to the presence of a cardioverter defibrillator's cell-stimulating electricity, the augmentation can increase the stimulation to 75 mV without fear of cell damage. The Sentinel implant package also includes the angiogenesis protein therapy delivery system. This augmentation stimulates the production of blood vessels in all parts of the body, increasing the user's ability to withstand damage and simultaneously reducing the negative effects of injury. It achieves this through internal production of custom-designed growth factors that trigger and support angiogenesis, the production of vascular tissues. These are circulated through the body via the lymphatic system, resulting in an overall increase in the blood flow to all parts of the body. The augmentation also produces a small amount of inhibiting antibodies that prevent angiogenesis cascading, which can result in spontaneous tumor formation. The angiogenesis protein therapy mod initially restricts itself to the production of growth factors that directly support the body's natural angiogenesis abilities. This upgrade adds a variety of genetically modified growth factors to the mix: S-FGF, S-VEGF, and S-angioproteins, all of which promote the construction of vascular tissues throughout the body. The inhibiting antibodies remain, but take on a more regulatory role. After growing accustomed to the flow of synthetic and supportive growth factors, the angiogenesis protein therapy augmentation finally shuts down all production of growth factor inhibitors. This allows the body itself to guide the continued development of vascular tissue. Eventually, the user's body naturally reaches the maximum threshold of capillary saturation and can now experience massive trauma without bleeding to death or losing organ function. It is not immortality, but it's the closest thing available with current technology. Users with several augmentations project a low-voltage electrical field in their immediate vicinity. This can cause a variety of cardiovascular problems, all of which can be exacerbated by the Sentinel RX health system sub-augmentations. the RX Health Pacekeeper, which is implanted directly into the heart's sinoatrial node, ensures that users' heartbeat remains constant and unaffected by the field. It does this by delaying the activation of the Sentinel RX Health system until a few moments after physical injury occurs, reducing stress on the heart. Once the user's cardiovascular system grows accustomed to the influence of all augmentations, this delay can be shortened to increase response time. The user's cardiovascular system grows accustomed to the physiological stresses caused by general augmentation. The RX Pacekeeper can be set to a more aggressive state, Sentinel mode. This decreases the delay between last trauma and the start of health regeneration. In collaboration with a cardioverter defibrillator, it also signals the adrenal gland to reduce the production of stress hormones. This improves the heart's ability to cope with stress. In time, the user's cardiovascular system grows nearly invulnerable to the negative effects of stress and stress hormones. In this state, the RX Health Pacekeeper can be set to Elite mode, allowing for an extremely short delay between last injury and the triggering of health regeneration augmentations. Elite mode goes one step further by instructing the angiogenesis protein therapy augmentation to regulate the production of corticotropin-releasing hormone, a stress hormone that, in erroneous quantities, can encourage the formation of various stress-related conditions. This further conditions the heart to cope with physiological stress. The Seraph Series 8 energy converter transforms nutrients such as fat, glucose and adrenaline into electric charge that is then stored in augmentation-specific power biocells. The Series 8 also contains a variety of subcomponents that regulate energy use in different ways. The Series 9's electrochemical catalyst transforms human and food energy into biocell energy for use by augmentations. The catalysts also set and control the energy generation rate. This rate is determined partially by testing the conductivity of the user's body mass and identifying the highest rate possible without starving the body of vital nutrients. If the users experience no ill health effects, and the biocells are operating correctly, the conversion rate can be turned upwards. Once the Series 8 confirms that the user's body is not negatively affected by the conversion process, the electrochemical catalysts can have their energy conversion rate increased from 12 to 50% efficiency. The remaining energy is lost to heat and harmless chemical runoff, water and sulfur, which is distributed throughout the lymphatic system. Providing the user continues to experience no ill effects from the conversion process, the electrochemical catalysts can have their conversion rates increased one final time from 50 to 85%, roughly equivalent to the efficiency of a modern electric car alternator. The remaining energy is lost as heat and safely absorbed by the user's tissues. The Series 8 comes with a standard set of lithium-sulfur graphene biocells. These factory standard cells provide 600 watt-hours per kilogram and can be infinitely recharged without any breakdown of the electrolytic material or cathode array. The Series 8 also comes equipped with a series of more powerful biocells which can be turned on once the system verifies that all electrical runoff in the body through the P.E.P.S connections is safely within specifications. The Series 8 comes equipped with a set of more powerful biocells that can be activated if electrical leaching into the body remains below accepted safety thresholds. These enhanced capacity cells contain a nickel and nickel tin electroplated fiberglass foam that maximizes surface area and increases energy storage capacity. The Series 8's most impressive alternative biocell is the active matrix magnesium salt cells, which use a small amount of power to constantly regenerate a microcellular electrolytic solution. This energy storage medium is the most advanced known and can reach 1000 watt-hours per kilogram. The energy recharge capacitor switches the user's biocells between depletion and charge mode. Theoretically, the system can perform the switch with virtually no delay, but tests have shown that the P.E.P.S interconnects between the bioelectrical system and most terminus augmentations can emit bioelectrical feedback into the surrounding tissue during periods of rapid shifting. This is known to increase the buildup of glial tissue around the P.E.P.S circuits. Until the user's system grows accustomed to the presence of electrical feedback, the capacitors impose a brief delay between depletion and charge modes. The delay can be reduced depending on the user's susceptibility to glial tissue buildup. As long as the system detects no or minimal electrical feedback around the user's P.E.P.S interconnects, the recharge capacitors can reduce the recharge delay to a midpoint between the factory setting and the shortest delay possible. If the user finds the system operates correctly, it is likely safe to reduce the delay to the minimum setting. If no electrical feedback has occurred on the safe and moderate settings, the user may safely set the recharge capacitors to the lowest possible setting. Some delay is always present, as the mode switch requires a brief flush of the biocell cathode array in order to repolarize the electrolytic matrix and prevent burnout. Users should monitor the alarm systems on the Series 8 and watch for unusual behavior or error messages. Such activity could indicate difficulties with the mode switch apparatus and should not be ignored. Concealed in the chest cavity, the Implanted Rebreather augmentation activates in the presence of increased or difficult breathing scenarios. It can be upgraded with a variety of breathing augmentations to provide superior defense against inhaled toxins, bioagents, apnea, asphyxiation, and other respiratory dangers. The Implanted Rebreather is frequently coupled with a second membrane chemical air filter to prevent acute injury from inhaled toxins or biological agents. The second membrane chemical resistance augmentation contains a narrow strip of fiberglass laminated with titanium dioxide. A drip feed of biocell energy keeps the titanium oxide electrified such that it continuously breaks apart toxic chemicals, producing water vapor and other harmless molecules. Almost all dangerous inhaled agents can be broken down in this fashion, rendering the user safely immune to a broad spectrum of weaponized toxins. The Cybernetic Arm prosthesis replaces the user's organic limbs with enhanced function mechanical substitutes. In place of muscles, these limbs utilize electroactive polymers that can be contracted using fields of electricity with a 10,000% increase in force for an unlimited time period. Initially, the augmentation allows the user to engage in impressive feats of close-quarters unarmed combat. As the user grows more comfortable with the arm, the range of available skills widens to include light demolitions, displacement of heavy objects, and carrying of heavier loads. Slight modifications to the Cybernetic Arm's shock buffers, sim bone frames, and timing software allow the user to break through light or damaged walls with a powerful strike. Additional retinal prosthesis upgrades also identify vulnerable substructures and project that information onto the HUD. Closed-loop recording and electrostimulation transmits 1016 channels of recording data to an onboard processor which supplements the cybernetic arm and enables improved agility and hand-to-hand combat prowess, allowing the user to engage individual targets in confined quarters. Additional augmentations, including the Nano Blade wrist weapon and rotating cuffs, can be implicated in the takedown maneuvers. The user may activate a schedule of coupled pulsed electric field exposure treatments which augment and restore the bone marrow cell production. This grants the user the strength to briefly lift and throw very large objects. Heat generated from electroactive polymers in the cybernetic arm prosthesis enables thermal actuation of the polymers, allowing users to carry larger inventory loads. Users can transfer air pressure captured from the rapid contractions of the artificial muscle to provide further power to the arm's pneumatic actuators. This allows the user to carry even greater physical loads. Ionic electroactive polymers can be actuated through the diffusion of ions throughout the arm's musculature and thus provide greater dexterity and strength. The cybernetic arm prosthesis is coupled with onboard subsystems driven to improve the handling of weaponry on the battlefield. Habitually a standard and often demanded augmentation support for military groups seeking to make soldiers as efficient as possible, the CWH subsystem manages the improvement of three factors: weapon recoil, accuracy, and reflex improvement for reload speed. The standard aim stability supplies factory settings of basic hand-eye coordination and aiming abilities. Slight movements is still encountered while focusing to fire via weaponry. Further upgrades and mastery of aim stabilization would reduce these hindrances. The direct practical effect of the aim stabilizer is to reduce the radius of the travelling reticle displayed on the user's optic interface, designating the target zone generated by a given firearm. The motion dampening stability-induced augmentation narrows the fire zone, allowing the user to aim at targets with greater efficiency while moving. An implant mechanism that originates in the cranial area, the aim stabilizer is a decentralized augmentation with elements embedded in the user's nerve-brain connections, inner ear structure, and optic nerves. From second to second, the augmentation reads and processes inputs from the user's innate senses for balance and orientation and modifies them accordingly based on current circumstances. Thus, the user's sense of balance and hand-to-eye muscle control is regulated and enhanced, providing a greater stability even at speed or while in extreme motion. Increased familiarity with signals originating from the aim stabilizer's implanted elements enables the user to maintain near complete control of their targeting accuracy while in motion. The Cybernetic Arm prosthesis is a cutting-edge replacement to the user's organic arms. Fresh out of the package, the P.E.P.S ensures a noticeable reduction in strain or effort when committing basic actions. Despite this, the user will still encompass some recoil when handling heavy machinery or military-grade weaponry. A series of liquid polymer reaction management buffers installed in the Cybernetic Arm's wrists and elbow joints will reduce the recoil from any firearm once the user becomes familiar with them. Learning how to use the Cybernetic Arm's reaction management buffers in conjunction with its bioplastic shock-absorbing compressor will substantially eliminate the recoil generated by any firearm, allowing for a stabilized aim even when firing in fully automatic mode. Linked to cranial onboard software, the user's cybernetic arms grow accustomed to the linking between biological and mechanical augmentations stemmed from the deltoid muscles down to the flexor digitorum superficialis and palmar aponeurosis, resulting in a slight increase in reflex time and hand-eye coordination. The neural imaging processors behind the retinal prosthesis contain a high bandwidth of local data streaming, effectively a safeguard, ensuring the user's hand-eye coordination faces a near-zero software error. Increased familiarity with the augmentation increases weapon reload speed, shaving off fractions of seconds, which could be the difference between life and death for its user. Further acclimatization to the Cybernetic Arm's prosthesis greatly increases reloading speed for all types of weaponry by forming more neural pathways dedicated to hand-eye coordination. The Projected Energy Propulsion System, or P.E.P.S, uses an invisible deuterium fluoride laser to generate a wall of concussive force that knocks down targets and displaces objects. It is invaluable in crowd control scenarios where threats must be neutralized and casualties kept to a minimum. The weapon has a long firing cycle and short operational range, and a lengthy recharge time. The base version of the augmentation lets the user fire a quick-shot wide-array wave which knocks back aggressors as well as light objects. At this level, the knockback augmentation only pushes foes back, it does not have the strength to stun or incapacitate them. Through microscopic alterations of the emission diode, the discharge from the deuterium fluoride nozzle can be focused into a narrow beam. This beam is much more powerful than the blast wave and can render single individuals unconscious. The laser emitter requires a stronger power output, caused by charging the output capacitor briefly to achieve the effect. The remote hacking augmentation is used in conjunction with the MHD995 hacking device and the Infolink communications augmentation. It allows the user to wirelessly hack electronic devices from a distance. The environmental domination sequencer pings nearby connections of smart world objects, displaying them as yellow dots in the heads-up display. It then allows the user to hack into these devices remotely and permits simple activation and deactivation of root commands. At this rate, the augmentation is incapable of interacting with security objects, since these are fortified with enough security protocols to immediately reject foreign connections. The security domination sequencer allows the user to connect to and override security protocols, allowing users to temporarily disable high security hardware like cameras, turrets, and robots. The Targeted Electrical Discharge System, also known as the Tesla, is capable of firing a 200 mA arc of electricity. Useful for incapacitating targets, the high current causes muscular contraction strong enough to clamp down on the heart and prevent full cardiac arrest, leaving the target unconscious but alive. The Tesla is powered by experimental aluminium graphite nanobatteries housed within the forearm. The augmentation picks out targets with a UV laser emitter. The laser reflection is then captured by an onboard UV sensor, making it basically impossible to miss unless there's densely intervening material or some kind of reflective obstruction. The UV lasers can be configured to mark up to 2 targets by forging ancillary connections between the dual and tertiary electrodes. An additional capacitor switch housed within the battery splits the amperes evenly, allowing for 2 evenly powered arcs. The UV lasers can also be upgraded and configured to mark up to 4 targets by forging ancillary connections between the quaternary support system and the dual and tertiary electrodes. An additional capacitor switch housed within the battery splits the amperes evenly, allowing all 4 to be evenly powered. Upgrading the Tesla's UV laser emitter with a PIN diode and fusing it with an ohmic contact will increase the electrical current stability and density, allowing it to lock onto targets from a greater distance. The Nano Blade is an attachment mounted on the Cybernetic Arm prosthesis and is concealed unless deployed. It is most often wielded as a melee weapon, but may also be used as a projectile. The augmentation upgrades the blade forearm sheath to include a launcher apparatus that can eject the blade. It also includes a high-energy molecular assembler that, with the proper supply of silicon carbide cartridges, rapidly fashions a replacement laminar graphene blade and affixes it to the sheath, ready for melee or ranged combat. The signature square blade is tweaked to be ejected, essentially becoming a heavy crossbow lodged in the forearm. When fired, it has enough velocity to fatally wound and launch a victim airborne. If near any walls or other solid objects, the target may be both impaled and pinned to the surface. The Nano Blade can be upgraded with a small amount of liquid explosive nested between the plates within the lamellar graphite blade. A chemical reaction begins when the blade is heated and ends when it strikes a surface with sufficient force. The blade then shatters into several smaller fragments, fatally wounding living entities within its area of effect. Essentially a safety device, the Icarus landing system is an automatically triggered augmentation that allows users to drop from extreme heights without incurring physical damage. The device has an accelerative descent sensor built in. In freefall, the unit automatically generates a fixed focus electromagnetic lensing field. This field magnifies the Earth's ambient magnetosphere and produces a reciprocal effect, gently pushing upwards against the user. This slows the user's fall and facilitates a smooth landing. The magnetic field can also be modulated manually to channel a portion of the energy produced by the EMF generator into a localized shockwave centered on the landing surface. This shockwave generates enough concussive force to incapacitate nearby enemies. It also generates a great deal of noise and will alert nearby personnel. Upon detection of dangerous downward G-forces, the high fall safeguard system automatically generates a fixed focus electromagnetic lensing field projected downwards along the plane of the drop to allow for a safe landing. When engaged, the Icarus strike finishes the landing by pulsing the electromagnetic field outwards from the landing zone, which can result in loss of consciousness of nearby individuals. The Icarus dash augmentation allows users to propel themselves horizontally at great speed across short distances. Whether on the ground or in the air, it achieves this by generating an electromagnetic pulse wave behind the user, which applies pressure evenly across the user's back. The dorsal propulsion kit installs the Icarus dash system in the approximate centre of mass of the user's spine. With this installation package, the user achieves greater dexterity during the dash and is less likely to be knocked off balance when ending the dash. The charge dash upgrade permits the user to focus the augmentation's propulsion. Doing this displays onboard augmented reality notices to pinpoint the user's ability to dash onto reachable ledges or over cover points. The system equally has the potential to ram into incoming attackers, knocking them unconscious on impact. The Quicksilver Reflex Booster is essentially a supercharger for the human nervous system. The booster works by activating the attention button in the parasympathetic nervous system. While activating the vagus nerve, bursts of norepinephrine and acetylcholine flood the motor cortex and enable rapid learning and relearning, along with the increased burst of mental focus. This enables military personnel, athletes and physical performers to execute quicker, more impressive feats of strength and dexterity. When supported by the Retinal Prosthesis, the Cybernetic Arm prosthesis and the Quicksilver Reflex Booster, the Palastra software upgrade supports the user during attempts to physically overpower two adversaries simultaneously. Body tracking software in the modules tie closely to the Cybernetic Arm prosthesis, allowing the user to plan highly complex and precise physical attacks and carry them out with near 100% accuracy. The Typhoon explosive system is a series of interlinked and electromagnetic launchers installed throughout the body and connect to a larger processor installed at the base of the user's spine. When activated, the launchers simultaneously eject a volley of liquid crystal elastomer projectiles in a targeted 360-degree arc. The projectiles can be configured either to be lethal or non-lethal. While the Typhoon can be armed with lethal or non-lethal rounds, only one configuration can be integrated into the user's system. In stun configuration, the liquid crystal elastomer projectiles vaporize on firing, emitting a wave of concussive, stunning gas. The resulting gas cloud incapacitates organic targets without killing them. In the lethal configuration, the liquid crystal elastomer projectiles are filled with a pentarithol tetranitrate, causing them to explode and inflict maximum damage. The focus enhancement augmentation is lodged within the user's nervous system. Activation, coupled with the regulated nervous system supplement, guarantees a brief instance in accelerated awareness. In a similar fashion to the reflex booster, the system jolts the user's parasympathetic nervous system for a brief time to make quick decisions. The Hummingbird 9 regulated nervous system is a precautionary mechanism for the focus enhancement augmentation, guaranteeing the user does not enter a critical state. The system applies backup safety protocols in the event of overexertion. As a failsafe, the system feeds on the user's bioelectrical capacity cells. Expending them overrides user manual activation and immediately terminates the system. When active, the RNS appears to slow the user's surroundings, while in truth their reaction time has been nominally increased. Most regular actions are permissible within this mode. The Hummingbird 9 is the 9th and only iteration of the RNS prototypes, which did not immediately cause the test subject's heart ventricle valves and artificial heart to overheat and burst on activation. The glass shield cloaking system allows the user to turn invisible for short periods of time. It achieves this by generating a carefully tuned spherical electromagnetic field that can control the refraction of light in the user's immediate vicinity. In essence, this field steers the light around the user and returns it to its original path, with a perturbation rate of less than 3%. Melee combat defeats the system and thus triggers deactivation. In order to process the electromagnetic patterns of the local environment on a millisecond to millisecond basis, the glass shield cloaking system draws energy through a discrete biocell energy processor installed in the user's brain. When first implanted, users can operate their cloak for only a brief period. This can be improved through optimizations of the EM field generator. Optimization of the code that generates and controls the electromagnetic field can reduce the glass shield's power requirements. One significant improvement alters the physical structure of the EM field by producing alternating vertical pillars of stronger electromagnetic activity. These pillars filter incoming and outgoing rays of light, much like brakes at seaports. The cloaking effect is the same but requires less energy, thus increasing the length of time the effect can be sustained. Further optimization of the electromagnetic field generating code allows the augmentation to identify the precise three-dimensional location within the EM sphere where alteration of light pathing is required to maintain user invisibility. The generator then limits its perturbation of the EM field only to those areas, greatly increasing the duration of the invisibility effect. Prior to the cloaked takedown support upgrade, any melee combat performed by the user will disrupt their cloaking effect. This is because the EM field generator must remotely sense the user's physical dimensions and extend the field only to encompass those expected dimensions. If the user comes into contact with another person, the generator cannot calculate the field size accurately, so terminates the cloak. This upgrade taps into the user's nervous system and sends constant digital pings throughout the body's synaptic connections, thus allowing for precise mapping and sensing of the user's physical location. Thus, when another person enters the EM field, the generator knows to ignore them and may perpetuate the invisibility effect. A technologically advanced version of implanted body armor, this augmentation is able to reduce inflicted damage effects from blunt trauma, ballistic attacks, cutting and/or slashing attacks. Secondary functionality also provides protection from electromagnetic pulses. However, it cannot reduce the effects of airborne contaminants such as gas, environmental effects, radiation, toxins and poisons, or falling trauma. Rhino dermal armor is a supple, micro-thin material implanted beneath the epidermis in key areas of the body, as well as over the surface of pre-existing cybernetic limbs. The structure of the plating is a phased composite. The base is a microfiber lattice weave made of carbon nanotubes suspended in a dilatant, or shear thickening fluid. When kinetic energy from a physical blow or weapon discharge strikes the plating, the fluid becomes rigid, deflecting the impact shock. Heat and electromagnetically conductive elements in the armor matrix serve to dissipate damage from fire-related or energized trauma. The phase composite technology inside the Rhino dermal armor provides superlative physical protection against the majority of combat-induced stresses, reducing some of the physical damage. Learning to anticipate the interaction between carbon nanotubes, dilatant fluid and kinetic energy can substantially increase the effectiveness of the Rhino dermal armor, further reducing damage taken from the attacks. Mastering use of dermal armor's phased composite structure increases the effectiveness of Rhino dermal armor even more, reducing damage taken from the attacks to an optimal level. Electromagnetically conductive elements in the armor matrix dissipate electrical and magnetic damage as it occurs, shielding users from the neural overload and augmentation shutdown effects of electromagnetic pulses, be them from weapons or localized hazards at any range. A neodymium skin underlay matrix built of nano-meshed rare earth magnets and powered with hook-ins to the biocell electrical system, the Titan skin augmentation can be activated at will and then dissipate instantaneously. The neodymium underlay is installed with a few thousand ampules of diamorphic magnetorheological fluid, a carbonyl iron mix with a prismatic foam nanostructure. When activated, the fluid is ejected from tiny nozzles installed throughout the skin. Simultaneously, the neodymium underlay electrifies, causing the fluid to solidify and seal the user inside an iron shell, effectively protecting them from all physical damage. Its high energy consumption can be somewhat reduced by further upgrades. A number of modifications to the subcutaneous power distribution network are required to make the Titan augmentation work. A separate implant handles these modifications fluidly by tapping into the user's energy system and ensuring a continuous power supply. Shrinking the size of the prisms in the iron foam that makes up the structure of the colloid liquid decreases the per tick energy requirement to sustain the shell. The excess energy can then be used to increase the magnetic response of the MR fluid, quickening the development and prolonging the maintenance of the solidification. Energy requirements for the Titan can be reduced by activating a series of phasing capacitors installed in the neodymium underlay. These will passively collect energy from the user's ambient EM field and release their charge during nanosecond intervals via the usual biocell dispersal schedule. The Cybernetic Leg prosthesis replaces the user's legs with enhanced function mechanical substitutes. In place of organic musculature, these limbs utilize myomeres, spun carbon nanotubes activated with electric fields, that function similarly to human muscle, though with superior strength and endurance. Additional functionality, including enhanced jump height and the ability to move without audible detection, becomes possible as the user mounts and enables various upgrades to the prosthesis. The clip springer jump modifier increases myomere density and activates a shock-absorbing gel matrix on the knee joints and hip joints. This allows the user to make standing high jumps of up to 3 meters. The Cybernetic Leg prosthesis is a relatively noisy augmentation. The servo motors that provide movement, as well as the moving parts in the knee, ankle and hip joints, produce a fair amount of noise. The Leg Silencer add-on eliminates all mechanical noise while walking and running through the activation of sound dampening hardware, ferrofluid gels surrounding the joints, and mechanical code improvements. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider hitting the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Be sure to like the video if you did, and pop a comment below on what you'd like me to cover next. I just want to take a moment to thank my patrons, Spartan10148, the Metarch of my facility, Falcon, Sophia, Mikhail, Ashley, Jordan and Esoteric Sight, my dutiful monitors, Darian, Legions Lost, Labrat, Spartan0137, Jacob Kemp, Sean, Element Zero, J3, Mr. Keys, Gunslinger, Evermore, Personal Devil, Aldiaz, Toxic, Scion Esports, Gems, Saber and Relentless, my diligent sub-monitors, my fleet of Strato Sentinels, my loyal enforcers, and all other patrons who continue to support the channel. If you want your name on the end of the video and some perks earned along the way, head over to Patreon and consider supporting the channel yourself. Big shout out to my Tier 0 Transcendent YouTube members, Spartan137, Jacob Kemp, Talia, Fenrir, Bornstella, Jimbo and Balaz, and all the other YouTube members keeping my installation running on that glorious vacuum energy, with a special mention to the Accursed Hunter. Shout out to John due to the mathematical formula used to determine the area within a pentadodecahedron. Oh, and Lena because that sandwich. And remember, there are tons of ways to support the channel and keep my installation pumping out content at a breakneck speed. Much love to you all, take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.